Welcome again to the lectures on stylistics. These lectures are delivered for the students studying at the Department of English and German Languages, whose major is Foreign Language to Foreign Languages. The theme of this lecture is as follows: Syntactical stylistic devices, peculiar linkage. The outline of this lecture includes the following points: particular ways of combining parts of the utterance, and the second point will discuss stylistic devices, namely Asyndeton, Polysyndeton, and gap sentence link. As it has been said in the previous lecture, syntactical stylistic devices fall into the following groups: patterns of syntactical arrangement, peculiar linkage, colloquial constructions, and stylistic use of structural meaning. Within this lecture, we'll consider the group of the second criterion, that is the peculiar linkage. First of all, we'll talk about the particular ways of combining parts of the utterance, that is linkage. Much light can be thrown on the nature of linkage if we do not confine the problem to such notions as coordination and subordination. Most of the media which serve as grammatical forms for combining parts within the sentence have been investigated and expounded in grammars with sufficient clarity and fullness. But sentence linking features within larger than the sentence structures, superphrasal units, paragraphs, and still larger structures have so far been very little under observation. Nowadays, various scientific papers single out the following media which can fulfill the structural function of uniting various parts of utterances: different types of repetition, anaphora, epiphora, and a diplausis framing, the definite article, the demonstrative pronouns, the personal pronouns, the use of concord in number, form of tenses, etc., adverbial words and phrases, for instance, however, consequently, it follows, then, etc., prosodic features such as contrastive tone, the listing intonation pattern, parallel constructions, sustained metaphors and similes, and a number of other means. The definition of means of combining parts of an utterance rests on the assumption that any unit of the language might, in particular cases, turn into a connective. Such phrases as "that is to say," "it goes without saying," "for the which," "however," "the preceding statement," and the like should also be regarded as connectives. It follows then that the capacity to serve as a connective is an inherent property of a great number of words and phrases if they are set in a position which calls for continuation of a thought or description of an event. To follow closely how parts of an utterance are connected and to clarify the type of interdependence between these parts is sometimes difficult, either because of the absence of formal signs of linkage or because of the presence of too many identical signs. Within this lecture, we'll discuss stylistic devices based on peculiar syntactical connections of utterances, and they include Asyndeton, Polysyndeton, and gap sentence link. Asyndeton is a deliberate avoidance of conjunctions in constructions in which they would be normally used. For example, he couldn't go abroad alone. The seer upset his liver. He hated hotels. They dove, splashed, floated, splashed, swam, snorted. So normally there should be at least one conjunction and before the last verb. They splashed, swam, and snorted. Another example is as follows. Anyway, like I was saying, shrimp is the fruit of the sea. We can barbecue it, boil it, broil it, bake it, saute it. These are shrimp kebabs, shrimp creole, shrimp gumbo, pan-fried, deep-fried, stir-fried. There is pineapple shrimp, lemon shrimp, coconut shrimp, pepper shrimp, shrimp soup, shrimp stew, shrimp salad, shrimp and potatoes, shrimp burger, shrimp sandwich. That's about it. Polysyndeton is an identical repetition of conjunctions used to emphasize simultaneousness of described actions, to disclose the author's subjective attitude towards the characters, to create the rhythmical effect. For instance, the heaviest rain and snow and hail and sleet could boast of the advantage over him in only one respect. So here we can see the repetition of the conjunction and. The repetition of conjunctions and other means of connection makes an utterance more rhythmical, so much that prose may even seem like verse. One of the functions of Polysyndeton is a rhythmical one. In addition to this, as Galperine states, it has disintegrating function. It combines homogeneous elements of thought into one whole, resembling enumeration. But the latter, which integrates both homogeneous and heterogeneous elements into one whole, Polysyndeton causes each member of a string of facts to stand out conspicuously. That is why we say that Polysyndeton has a disintegrating function. Enumeration shows things united. Polysyndeton shows them isolated. Gap sentence link presents two utterances. The second is brought into the focus of the reader's attention. For instance, she and that fellow ought to be the sufferers, and they were in Italy. Ilya Galperine makes the following comment. In this sentence, the second part, which is hooked on to the first by the conjunction and, seems to be unmotivated, or, in other words, the whole sentence seems to be logically incoherent. But this is only the first impression. After a more careful supralinear semantic analysis, it becomes clear that the exact logical variant of the utterance would be: those who ought to suffer were enjoying themselves in Italy. Consequently, gap sentence link is a way of connecting two sentences seemingly unconnected and leaving it to the reader's perceptiveness to grasp the idea implied, but not worded. Generally speaking, every detail of the situation need not be stated. Some must remain for the reader to divine. Galperine provides with another interesting example. The Forsytes were resentful of something, not individually, but as a family. This resentment expressed itself in an added perfection of raiment, an exuberance of family cordiality, an exaggeration of family importance, and the sniff. In his opinion, in this example, the gap sentence link, the sniff, is motivated. Its association with an exaggerated family importance is apparent, though the emotive meaning of the word sniff is so strong that it overshadows the preceding words, which are used in their primary, exact, logical meanings. Now let's conclude what has been considered within this lecture. The arrangement of sentence members, the completeness of sentence structure necessarily involve various types of connection used within the sentence or between sentences. As it has been mentioned above, repeated use of conjunctions is called Polysyndeton. Deliberate omission of them is correspondingly named Asyndeton, because from the Greek, syndet means conjunction, and poly means many, a means no, absence. Both Polysyndeton and Asyndeton have a strong rhythmic impact. Besides, the function of Polysyndeton is to strengthen the idea of equal logical, emotive importance of connected sentences, while Asyndeton, cutting off connecting words, helps to create the effect of terse, energetic, active prose. These two types of connection are more characteristic of the author's speech. The third type, attachment or gap sentence link or leading sentence, on the contrary, is mainly to be found in various representations of the voice of the personage, dialogue, reported speech, entrusted narrative. In the attachment or the gap sentence link, the second part of the utterance is separated from the first, one by a full stop or a comma or a dash, though their semantic and grammatical ties remain very strong. The second part appears as an afterthought and is often connected with the beginning of the utterance with the help of a conjunction, which brings the latter into the foregrounded opening position. It wasn't his fault, it was yours and mine. I now humbly beg you to give me the money with which to buy meals for you to eat. And hereafter do remember it. The next time I shan't beg, I shall simply starve. Another example is, prison is where she belongs, and my husband agrees 1000%. That is all in brief concerning the content of this lecture. As a rule, you are suggested to respond to these comprehension questions to check your comprehension of the contents of the lecture. What is meant by peculiar linkage? What is the difference between Asyndeton and Polysyndeton, and do your best to illustrate your answer with examples. Give 3 examples of Asyndeton and what are its functions. What is the most frequently used conjunction in Polysyndeton? And what is gap sentence link? And as a rule, we offer you a list of sources for your further reading. Thank you for attention.